Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Friday, August 1st, 2025. It's going to be Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat leading in to Tisha B'Av in just a few hours. It is broadcast 1358. Thank you, Penny. Amy, it's good to see you. Shira, it's good to see you too. Rabbi Wasser, welcome, my friend. Cool Mama Weiss, nice to have you here. Linda and Richard, Deborah and Debbie, Jonathan, Arlene, and Sherry, good morning, friends. It's good to see you. Rabbi Benzi Cohen, so nice to see you. I hope everyone is doing well and is safe. Rosa and Cheryl, Adrian, good to see you, my friend. Okay, let's see who else is here. We're going to sing a bracha, learn some Torah. Hi, Amy. Hi, Joyce. Good to see you. It is, as Penny reminded us, broadcast 1000. Oh, she reminded us, and I already forgot. 358. It is day 665 since October 7th. Let's take a moment, sing a bracha, learn some Torah. So, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. Thank you to everyone who said Labriut, and God bless you, and Gesundheit. Blessing you all, too. It's good to see all of you. Amy, Hatzlacha, may the knee replacement surgery go smoothly. May you feel recovery very, very smoothly and speedily afterwards. It's Erev Shabbat Chazon. So, a little bit of explanation. Shabbat Chazon is a special Shabbat that leads into Tisha B'Av. It's always the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. This year it happens to go literally right into it. And so, what a moment of transition for us to be in the midst of the 9 days that lead to Tisha B'Av, and then to go directly from Shabbat into a day of mourning is very complicated. I remember many years ago being on the staff at Camp Ramah in Nyack, New York, where the director at the time, Amy Scott Cooper, who's a beloved friend and now the national director of the Ramah camping movement, we were speaking because Tisha B'Av began right after Shabbat, and then the question is, how does the end of Shabbat feel? Often it's an emotional moment, but it's still Shabbat. We're sad to see Shabbat go, and yet we are preparing ourselves for the commemoration of the destructions of the temple and the other sad things that Tisha B'Av includes. And how do you do that? How do you go from one moment to the next? Well, there's no good answer for it. There are some who already take off their shoes on Shabbat leading into Tisha B'Av, where we don't wear leather shoes. The meal with which Shabbat ends, called Seudah Shlishit, is diminished a little bit, but we're not supposed to let Shabbat be diminished by anything. The only thing that shifts the joy of Shabbat is when it is Yom Kippur and Shabbat. But Tisha B'Av is very powerful, and it's important for us to acknowledge it. This Shabbat is called Shabbat Chazon because we read a special Haftorah, a special section of the prophets from the book of Isaiah that begins with the word Chazon Yeshayahu, that Isaiah had a vision, and the vision was of the destruction of the temple. And I want to speak about that in a slightly removed way, and then bring in some teachings from a really wonderful mentor of mine. What is it to have a vision of destruction in advance? And to be able to hear it and do something about it? We are right now, as a world, witnessing countless disruptions and destructions. This is not just a ritual reenactment. This is having our eyes open and noticing the way the world is, and hopefully making decisions based on reality. Not only our convictions, but also our lived experience. How do we go into Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of vision? And remember, the prophetic vision in the Hebrew Bible is sometimes there to warn people away from what could be. We're in a moment, potentially, that can be described just like that. And I've had one image in my eyes for the last day, as I'm sure many of you have, which is of Ram Braslavsky. Ram Braslavsky was taken hostage 665 days ago, and he is hungry, and he is not well. And Hamas released a video of him to show his pain. And it could lead to a reactive, brittle response. It certainly leads to sadness. It leads to a depth of commitment once again for us to call for the release of our 50 beautiful family members, 20 of whom, please God, are alive. I was going through my Facebook memories as it, part of the interface is it allows you to see where you were and what images did you share 1 year ago or 2 years ago. Well, 1 year ago, I was standing at the Kotel, and I had this bracelet on, which says, "Bring them home now." And the words, which you can see in this video, are faded. They were clarion, they were freshly printed. And my hand was on the Kotel like this. It was day 300. It was day 300 since October 7th. And 1 year later, as if this bracelet is any indication, which it is not, Ram Braslavsky's face is. We have a responsibility, friends, to have enough chazon, enough of a vision that things could, God forbid, be even worse, and to do something about that. I wish I had clarity myself how to speak about this moment. I don't. These last 2 weeks also given the vision of terribly hungry Gazans, people who are dying of starvation. And we cannot have our conversation authentically if we do not include the images of God beyond our people, because those people are also God's people. Every one of every community is created in the image of God, and it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility even if it's not us that caused their hunger. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel famously said, this is something he wrote in the 60s, that in a free society, some are guilty, all are responsible. So I want to say that again to us, and for us to take it seriously, because we have open eyes, and as much as it is hard to reconcile all of these painful images, it's important for us to remember that some are guilty, but all are responsible. And we are Jews. And those of us in our community who are not Jewish, bless you for being part of this amplification of Jewish learning and values and struggle. These images, these reports from the very limited journalistic reporting that is available from Gaza, we have responsibilities here, which is to keep our eyes open and to not let our passionate cries for the release of our 50 be diminished at all, or equivocated on, or contextualized. These are not bargaining chips. And for them to be named as one minister of Knesset, one, not Knesset and not Israeli society, but for one person to call them prisoners of war as opposed to kidnapped hostages, is to completely misframe our reality. We have to have our open eyes here. And the declared roles, Valerie, as you are saying, which I want to amplify too, the declared roles of UNICEF and Doctors Without Borders, it is not about blaming Israel for the situation. That's not what this is. But we have a responsibility. How do we fulfill our responsibility? Because people should just have food. This is a core Jewish concept. And for all the purity of our response to the pure evil of October 7th, we still have to have complicated thinking, nuanced thinking, because it is all too easy to give in to the chazon of Yeshayahu, the vision of Yeshayahu, of a destroyed Jerusalem. Whatever you think about prophecy, whatever you think about God, these are different questions. These, friends, these are moments. Let me turn to the Parsha for a moment, not because it's going to give us answers or a ribbon with which to tie this conversation up, and it's not. But let's think together and learn together a little bit, because it is Shabbat Chazon, and we begin the book of Devarim, of Deuteronomy today. There is a section of Devarim which says, this is Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 24 and 26, "Rise up, take your journey, pass over the land of Arnon. Behold, I," meaning God, "have given you into your hand Sichon ha'Emori, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, contend with him to battle. Then I sent," meaning Moshe, "messengers out of the wilderness of Kedemot to Sichon melech Heshbon with words of peace." So hear this for a moment. God commands, according to verse 24, that we go to war. I, meaning Moshe, sent messengers for peace. And there's an interesting comment by the ancient rabbis on this text. I owe this observation to Rabbi Shelley Lewis. This is called a Torah of Reconciliation. It's a beautiful Torah commentary written by a teacher and friend of mine. So he brings in a quote from a later midrash. I want to remind us why this midrash is so interesting. One verse purporting to tell us what God says go to war. Go to war against this specific tribe. And then 2 verses later, Moshe says, "But I offered peace," which seems to be a contradiction of what God has said. So listen to what this ancient midrash suggests. Rabbi Yoshua of Sichnin, in the name of Rabbi Levi, said, "Everything that Moses decreed, the Holy Blessed One affirmed." Hear it in that order. Everything that Moses decreed, the Holy Blessed One affirmed. How so? The Holy Blessed One said that Moshe should fight with Sichon, as it says, contend with them in battle, the first verse that we read. But Moshe did not do that. Rather, then I, meaning Moshe, sent messengers for peace. The Holy Blessed One said to Moshe, "I said to you to fight, but you opened with an offer of peace. I swear," says God, according to this midrash, "that I will affirm your decree. In every war that you enter, open with an offer of peace. As it is said, when you draw near a city to fight against it, proclaim peace to it." Deuteronomy chapter 20. Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear here too. I don't know that the word peace can enter any of our conversations because I can't imagine what that looks like right now. But I can imagine an end to war. I can imagine our 50 home. I can imagine Ron being held, Rum being held by his family, crying a lot, and little by little, please God, regaining some of his body, his health. I can imagine one day, I have to work to imagine this, but I can imagine not continuing to count every day since October 7th. I can imagine children having food. It's not really a question of blame when I think in this way. It's a question of everyone having what they need. We as Jews have believed in the possibility of a better world. We call that Mashiach. But I'll tell you a joke that I tell often in my teaching because it makes this point clear. Before the joke, a little bit of context. We, for 2,000 years of exile, before our return to our homeland, adopted a posture of waiting for things to get better. I would sing that as a child. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema, I believe with a full faith in the coming of the Messiah. Though he may tarry, I will wait. And that's what we sang when things were sad. So here's the joke, which clearly is not a joke. And I offer it in the spirit of learning from Tisha B'Av, learning from this parsha, learning from Moshe, our teacher, and learning from this moment, trying to see clearly in an incredibly complicated moment. So here's a quote joke. There's a guy who's retiring, and his town is really worried about him because when he retires, he might get into trouble. When people don't have expectations on them that they're used to, you can worry. And if anyone has retired or is close with someone who's retired, it's actually a complicated time of life. So this town decides to hire this man so that he won't get into trouble. And they say, your job is to sit on the east side of town. And they buy a chair and they put the chair down. You sit on the east side because we are taught by tradition that the Messiah will come from the east. So your job is to sit and wait. Sit and wait. And when you see the Messiah, you'll be the first one. Call it out. Say the Mashiach is coming. Mashiach is coming. So the man brown bags his lunch his first day, and he goes and he sits in this chair. At the end of that first day of work, he hands in a resignation letter. And the town says, what? Why are you resigning? He said, this is exhausting. Waiting, friends. Waiting for things to get better can be exhausting. And we know because of Shabbat Chazon, we can see that things could get worse. So instead of waiting for them to get better, and instead of only doom scrolling the possibilities of the future, I bless us to think about what the opposite vision could look like. In all of the complexity, the moral complexity, the military complexity, the political complexity, the emotional complexity, Rome is a human being, and he never should have been taken from his family's arms. 1 year ago was too long. That minute that they were taken was too long. And here we are. Here we are, heart to heart, a community that has been learning together for a very long time, counting every day since October 7th, going into Tisha B'Av and praying for Shabbat Nachamu, Shabbat of Comfort, which comes next week. We have work ahead. But this Shabbat, we read a story with one verse that says go to war, and 2 verses later, the possibilities of avoiding it. And as Adrian said, here we are. Here we are. So given the way things could be and the unacceptable posture of sitting on the east side of town and waiting for things to get better, let us have a different chazon today, a different vision. It is a Shabbat of vision. So just for a second before we sing Hatikva, let me invite you to do something that I'm going to do right now too, which is to close our eyes and imagine not needing to count the days since October 7th because everyone is home. Close your eyes and imagine headlines that talk about new leadership for Palestinians in Gaza. Close your eyes and think about no more headlines with Israeli soldiers dying. Close your eyes and imagine the chance just to do the rebuilding of this world from love. Just close your eyes for a minute. Imagine that all of that could be true. And with our eyes closed, let's consider for a second, what can you do to transcend what our eyes see right now and bring what our closed-eyed vision suggests is still possible? Tisha B'Av is going to be rough this year. Even if you don't observe Tisha B'Av in all of its ways, it's a sad day, and a significant part of the Jewish people will be revisiting not just the pain of the ancient past, but also the pain of the last 665 days. Let's rededicate ourselves to building a world from love. And as I open my eyes, let's also affirm it could be not that. So let's not wait to find out. Let's take the actions we must to bring the world what it needs. We'll deal with the blame and the moral consequences of everything. We will. But no one should be hungry. The Book of Lamentations that we read on Tisha B'Av says that the worst nightmare scenario is hunger. No starving children anywhere. Not in Gaza, not in New York City, nowhere. Not under the tunnels where Rum and others are being held. Nowhere. No one should be hungry. Bless you, everyone. Bless you for the courage of having closed your eyes and imagining again. This world is redeemable. Jerusalem was rebuilt. That's our work. Let's go into this Shabbat thinking, opening and closing our eyes so that we can see a world better than this one. And then let's set our feet to the pavement and our hearts to action so that we can bring the world just a little bit closer to that. Send your hearts to the east, everyone. Let's sing. Kol hod balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot alpayim liot am chovshi be'artzeinu eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim liot am chovshi be'artzeinu eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom, friends. A meaningful Tisha B'Av. See you on Monday.